Hello folks, and thanks for joining me for a very special video, Uncle Hank Live. Oh yes, and in it I will be telling some life stories and jokes, but I must say, some of my material might not be suitable for everyone. You see, some of my jokes are rude, so if that's you, do you mind clicking the back button? No, that's the pause button. You need to hit the arrow button. That's the one. Right, now that they've gone, that just leaves you. Do you like the backdrop? I think I've picked a good spot here. Oh yes. And if the camera starts moving, don't judge. She's a beauty, alright. Oh yes. Back in the old days, I used to have a warm-up act before I came on to perform. But Marge, my wife, she's gone for a store on the block, so I'll just begin. I'll begin with an old favourite. Two sperms are leading the pack, folks, and one says to the other, "Where's this damn egg everyone's been talking about? You know, we've been swimming for ages now. Do you even know who we are?" "No," said the other sperm. "I'm just as confused as you. I lost my bearings as soon as we hit the back of the throat." I do like that one. I went for my yearly blood tests today. Lovely nurse. She always asks how Marge and I are, but I let it slip today that romantically we are suffering nowadays. And you know what she said to me? She said, "Uncle Hank, you need to try to be a bit more spontaneous and, surprise Marge now and then." Well, I said, there's little chance of any spontaneous action today or surprises, as the blood that I need is now in those bottles. She thought that was quite funny, but so anyway, later that day, Marge and I were sat on the sofa. "Be spontaneous," I heard the nurse say in my head. So you know what I did, folks? I slipped my hand on Marge's thigh and went discovering. Well, folks, it did the trick, and it wasn't long before the vase was kicked off the coffee table and sent flying. It smashed into a nearby wall, and then Marge was then on top of me, riding us like a jockey at Aintree. It was fantastic, folks. You know, it lasted 2 hours. Marvellous. But we weren't finished there, oh no. We had round 2 seconds over the kitchen counter. Marvellous. Well, when I went back for my blood results the following week, the nurse asked, "So, Uncle Hank, how spontaneous have you been this week?" So I told her the story, and she said, "That's marvellous, congratulations." I said, "That's fine, but the only problem is that we're now banned from IKEA." Okay, folks, some quickfire jokes. I hope you're still with me. A blonde-eyed nun knocked on the door the other day. "Quick," she said, "Uncle Hank, I need to have sex with you right now." I said, "You better come in then, love. What's the hurry?" And she said, "I'm playing Mary in 9 months." "Well, I hope you're not asking me to play Joseph," I said. "No," she replied, "Father Brown is." Marge and I had a terrible fight the other day. She caught me masturbating over porn on my laptop. And you know what she did, folks? She unplugged the internet router and dumped it in the dishwater. You know, it didn't matter anyway, with no connection. I just worked offline. I hate it, you know, when you're socializing and folks always seem to ask, "Did you come on your own?" I always reply, "No, I'm married." You know what Marge says to me after sex? "That's another load off your mind." She does, yes, she does. You know, I do most of my thinking during sex. I do, yes. You see, I'm not that good thinking outside the box. Let that sink in, folks. Let that sink in. I bet you get it now. There you go. Tell that one to your wife later. Marge isn't best pleased with me. She said, "It's your fault I ended up in hospital. You saw me banging on the front door. Why didn't you open it?" "When I saw the house on fire, love," I said, "I thought it was best to keep my distance." She loves me really. My mum and dad didn't always see eye to eye on relationship advice. Mum would often say, "You must treat women with respect." My dad, on the other hand, would say, "You know, son, you can't trust women. I mean, they bleed for 5 days each month and still don't die." There's a joke to tell your grandchildren. I did one of those online surveys the other day, to discover what kind of person I am. And it came back that I was a naturist. Blimey, I thought, that's bloody good, because my favourite movie is Free Willy. I hope you're still with me, said the bishop in the brothel. I was in the park yesterday, and I heard a woman's screams of passion coming from behind a tree. Well, folks, I had to check if she was all right. You know me. And you know what? She was only humping a lower branch that had been carved to resemble a willy. I couldn't believe my eyes. And when she saw me standing there with my hand in my pocket, she explained that this was where she and her late husband first had sex in public. And the carved willy is, in fact, a replica of his. Shocked, I asked, well, what happens if someone else finds the willy? And she explained that it's spring-loaded and it simply pushes back into the tree and a hidden button makes it pop out again. That's genius, I told her. What a great way to remember your husband. But you must get a nasty friction burn, surely. Yes, she said, showing me a scar on her fanny. That's the only problem, she said. I didn't have the heart to tell her that I'd seen the same fanny scar on Tracy the barmaid and on Father Brown's bottom. Don't give your woman your phone ever, because they just mess around with your phone so much that it doesn't work properly. And you know what Marge did to me the other day? She changed my ringtone, and it scared the crap out of me when it rang. You see, when I was out on a walk, it rung singing, the one, everyone was kung fu fighting. It wasn't that scared me, no. It was these two ducks that jumped out of the water, kung fu style, singing a little bit frightening. Weddings are fun, aren't they? I do look at the good wedding. Terry, a distant cousin of mine, he decided to have a nude wedding. Yes, you heard right, folks, a nude wedding. He's like a real-life version of Jay from Modern Family, but with hair. His wife-to-be, well, she's something else entirely. But you could tell that at one stage in her life she'd been an escort, giving everybody a drive. And Terry asked me, so do you think you'll come with Marge? I don't know. I said, it depends if I'm in her good books. Anyway, 2 months later, we're sat in a cold village hall, along with 60 naked guests. Even the vicar was standing there in his birthday suit. And he may have only been a vicar, but he'd got a massive bishop hanging between his legs. It'll swing one way, then in the other. And at one point, folks, I thought it was talking directly to me. Then there was the naked guests to contend with. Oh yes, well, you know me. I didn't know where to look. There was fannies of all shapes and sizes and designs everywhere. There were a few Gaza strips. I think they call them Brazilians these days. Well, the mother of the bride, she was modelling a vajazzle. A sparkly fanny. Yep, I know. It even had a glitter ball hanging from the hood. Keeping Marge quiet during the ceremony was a real problem, believe me, folks. She kept asking me silly questions and pointing people out to me that I never knew. She said, I didn't know your Terry was circumcised, she whispered. It wasn't by choice, I replied. Remember his first wife? She had braces. I got the feeling that no one was really watching the ceremony. The singletons in the room were mostly locked eyes everywhere I looked. Naked at first sight, you see, naked at first sight. Even the bridesmaids were at it, but, for them, a naked wedding meant that they didn't have to waste time fondling the men later on to discover who had the biggest willy. I joked with Marge that by the end of the wedding, there'd be more wet boxes in here than in Iceland. For my non-UK viewers, Iceland's a frozen supermarket. Oh yes. Talking about marriage, my mate Jack went on that TV programme, the one where you agree to marry a stranger. I couldn't do that, personally. No, I couldn't do that. Especially as the first time you get to meet her is at the altar. Mind you, Jack would do anything for a one-night stand. Did you hear the one about the 25-stone virgin's wedding night? Well, according to the local paper, they both weighed in at a whopping 25 stone. Well, they decided not to have sex until their wedding night. Well, come the said night, he ended up splitting her wide open. Apparently there was blood everywhere. He'd only mistaken their belly button for a fanny. My friend John, he's recently been widowed, folks, and he's been missing the thatch rather a lot. So I told him where to find the local brothel, and he said, "Why is it that whenever I go, and it doesn't matter who I see, there's always a bucket of water at the foot of the bed?" He asked me what sex games needs a bucket of water. I said to him, "How much are you paying?" And he said between £40 and £50, depending on the day of the week it is. Weekends seem to be more expensive. "I see," I said. "Well, you need to knock on the red door. It sounds like you've been knocking on the green door." "That's right, I have," he said. "How did you know?" "Well, the green door is cheaper, as it's post-menopausal women, and those buckets you saw were in case you started a bushfire. You know, John took me to see the Six Nations at the Millennium Stadium, Wales versus France last summer. It was a midday kick-off, and I enjoyed it. It was lovely weather. And afterwards, he'd promised to take me to Pleasureland. "Trust me," he said, "you'll have fun." Well, as soon as we left Cardiff, he pulled the car over and blindfolded me. "It's a secret location," he said, "and I don't want you finding it on your own." I said, "All right then, all right, John, I trust you, I trust you." Well, folks, 20 minutes later, I heard the car come to a sudden stop, and he whipped off the blindfold and he said, "Welcome to Pleasureland." I said, "It's hardly Pleasureland, John. It's just a field of sheep." "It is Pleasureland," he stressed. "Over there you've got the roller coaster, which is Daisy. Jean is the one up the tree. She's helter-skelter. And you see those rams over there? They're the dodgems." And with that, folks, he handed me a box of condoms. Oh, by the way, where it says rollback, that's not a direction of use. It's just a price decrease. John is funny. I do love John. I do love him. He called 999 for help the other day, and the operator asked, "Hello, what's your emergency?" "Yes," he gasped. My new girlfriend was sucking my cock, and now she refuses to let go of it. And I think her aim is to snap it off." "Oh dear," said the operator. "Well, how about you pass her on the phone and I'll speak to her and try and calm her down?" And John said, "You can't." "Why not?" the operator said. "Is she refusing?" "No," he said. Dysons can't talk." You know, we had a whip round in the pub, and we bought John a cat to keep entertained. He hates being alone, you see. But that he won't let the cat roam freely, oh no. He takes it for walks on a lead. Daft sod. He spent a night up a tree. This lockdown, folks, Marge really isn't enjoying it. Well, after all, she has been tied to the bed for 6 weeks. Yeah, she loves me really. She loves me really. Well, everyone in Liverpool have grown lockdown beards. The last time that happened was when Hicks and Gillette were in charge of Liverpool Football Club. You see, the fans of LFC didn't want to give any more money to Gillette. You know, I wonder if that's why Jurgen Klopp has a beard. You know, it's a good job. It's a good job you can't see me, folks. Due to this lockdown, I've had to cut my hair the other day myself. Of course, Marge refused to help. She did. She refused to help. Well, after watching several YouTube videos, I reached for my beard trimmer. Now, for any of you out there that are even thinking of using a beard trimmer, hear this. You've only got 40 minutes maximum, and then the thing's dead. Oh yes, I only managed to do half one side and half the back. And Marge said, "Whilst it's charging up again, why don't you nip out for some bread and milk?" "I can't, Marge. Look at me. What if someone recognises me? Besides," I said, "I haven't got a face mask." Well, you know what she did, folks? She produced and handed me a pair of her knickers. "Use them as a face mask," she said, "and before you even think of complaining," she said, "it's not the first time you've had your face in my knickers in public." Boom, I was told. You know, Bear the West Island Terrier, he's been spending lockdown with us. I do love him, really, I really do. But the only problem is he does love his kisses, particularly the French ones. During my daily walk, I met a kid in the park the other day, crying his eyes out, he was, crying his eyes out. It looked like his mates had abandoned him, because they were in the distance pointing and laughing, and I said to the little lad, "Are you alright, son?" And he looked up at me, tears in his eyes, and he said, "Look what Ma has said I've got to wear. This is what my Nana got for me for my birthday, and I hate it, but I've got to wear it." "I would hate it too," I replied, "if I was made to wear an Everton kit too." During this lockdown, Marge has given me a box of wipes to take with me, after being to the supermarket, and she said, "You must wipe your hands every time you get back into your car after shopping. I tell you, if anyone glanced in my car, they'll think I'm a right wanker." We have some funny neighbours around here, some funny neighbours. The other day, we heard screams of passion coming from beyond the garden fence. Well, I was sat here having my Guinness, as was Marge over there on that deck chair, and she leaned over and she she whispered to me, "Peep through the hole in the fence." And I did. I did have to look for the fence, otherwise she would have smacked me if I didn't. Well, what a strange sight it was too. The wife was naked, and she appeared to be doing yoga's crab position, you know, pushing her red bushy fanny in the air, whilst her husband, also naked, was encircling her fanny while rigorously rubbing his willy. Well, I got back to Marge and I told Marge, and you know what she shouted, folks? You know what she shouted? She said, "Stop beating around the bush, just shag her." We've got some rude birds up north. Rude birds and deals, I can tell you. I was doing some weeding in my rose garden, and a bird perched in a nearby tree. He'd only told me to F off. Don't believe me? Have a listen yourself, folks. And for those that are of hard of hearing, I'll play it again, louder. See, I told you. I bought a lovely poppy plant for Marge on my last outing. You know, my nickname for Marge is Poppy, because just like a poppy, during the day, everything's out on show. Everything's out on show. But come night time, it closes up, refusing to get wet. You know, thank goodness the garden centres are now back open. You know, we went this morning. The only downer, it was actually packed in the car park. It was heaving. There was people everywhere. You know, and unluckily, Marge ended up breaking her leg. She said, "Can you hear that?" I said, "What?" She said, "Can you hear that?"
Stand well clear, vehicle reversing. Stand well clear, vehicle reversing. Stand well clear, vehicle reversing.
No, I said. I love gardening, as does Marge. It wasn't always the case, no. It wasn't until we moved into a three-bed semi. Three-bed semi. You know, that always makes me think of an orgy. It does, folks. Oh, yes. Orgies are fun, aren't they, though? The only problem with them is you don't know who to thank. You know, these days Marge is getting bored with sex. I can't blame her. It was a day job until she retired. You know, I had to buy Marge a vibrator the other day. I had to buy her a vibrator. I had to go into the shop and ask for a vibrator for Marge. You know, and I did that because I was fed up of her using my electric toothbrush. You know, you can always tell when a woman isn't enjoying sex. She'll have a little weed to piss you off. I like that one. I do like that one. Share it with your wife. Share that one with your wife. Well, as you know, Marge and I sleep in separate beds now, and we have done ever since that argument of who sleeps on the wet patch. Well, last night I could hear screams of passion radiating through my wall, and I shouted, "Marge, if you're on vibrate, at least be silent." "No, it's not me," she replied. "It's our elderly neighbours. They're at it again." And she was right. They were at it again. They even made Margie kinky too. You know, she appeared in my doorway, completely naked. I couldn't believe my eyes. She was completely naked. She said, "Let's give them some competition then." And I said, "Marge, have you shaved your fanny?" "Yes," she said. "I was fed up of the grey pubes making me feel old." I said, "Oh, well, it makes no difference, Marge," I said, "as the chips along the rim now give your age away." I got a smack in the mouth for that, folks. I got a smack in the mouth, but we still made love. Over the days that followed, we hadn't heard anything coming from next door, nothing at all. We guessed that they'd gone to their holiday home in Spain, but 2 weeks later, we get a knock on the door at 10 p.m, and it was only the police. Yeah, the police were at our door, I said, I think you've got the wrong house. We haven't ordered any strippers. Try next door. Well, as you'll know, that went down like a lead balloon, folks. By this time, Marge perked up and stood beside me. I wish she hadn't really, because she was naked, covered only by a bedrobe, and it was open at the front. We're here because of your neighbours, the copper said. I'm just informing you that, unfortunately, they were discovered dead in bed today, locked in each other's arms. Well, Marge stood forward and she said, well, that makes perfect sense now, she said. We haven't heard from them ever since sex night, she said. Well, at least they died hard. There's just some things that you just can't share with your neighbours, isn't it? We all have our little secrets. Well, Bear came into our house shaking a dead rabbit. He'd only pushed through a hole in the fence and raided next door's rabbit from its hutch. There was blood everywhere, folks. What are you going to do? Marge asked. I don't know. Are they in? No, she said. I saw them leave earlier. I said, good. You get rid of the dead rabbit, I said, whilst I go out for a replacement. Well, what a day that was. I just managed to get a new rabbit in time. The neighbours thought it was a miracle. They thought it was a miracle, as the said rabbit had died in the night, and they'd only just buried it. Well, that reminds me, the couple of months ago, later, the neighbours on the other side asked us to look after their Budgie for the weekend. Of course, Marge wasn't trusting Bear with a Budgie in the house, so I just visited Lucy daily, that's the Budgie. Everything was going fine until the Sunday. Let her out for a fly around the house on Sunday, they said to me. So I did. The only thing was that I'd forgotten to close over the back door, folks, and Lucy kind of escaped. Well, as you could understand, I spent the remainder of the day phoning pet shops, and I couldn't get a Budgie anywhere. Luckily, though, Lucy flew back in just before around 6 p.m. that night. Well, 3 weeks later, I get a knock on the door. Lucy's only wanted a word with me. I thought, no, what's happened now? What's happened now? And you know what it was, folks? The Budgie had only had 4 chicks. It's a miracle, they said. The neighbours have renamed our street Miracle Street now. Marge spends hundreds of pounds a year on expensive shampoo, washing it daily. So how do you stop your wife from using the expensive shampoo every day? You know what you do, folks? You put on the bottle, only use once a week. Oh, yes. Marge was up most of the night, waiting for our cat to come home, but she finally did come home, bow-legged, hissing and puking up, whiskers suspiciously spread apart. You know, she looked like Marge after a night on the eggnog. I said, we won't truly find out what she'd been up to until at least 67 days. You know, at times like now, it's like I do feel for the kids of this world. I mean, what kind of planet are they going to inherit? You know, it took Marge and I a few years to get pregnant. Of course she blamed me. She even dragged our GP into the argument, who didn't like me anyway, and I didn't know that you couldn't get pregnant from the rear. It was month after month of attacks, all aimed at me. We're not getting pregnant because you're coming in late, she often yelled, and I'd reply, I've got to work, love. Well, it got to the point, folks, where she'd have a schedule. You didn't have to push me to make me come with you. But match of the day was starting, love. Match of the day was starting. But I was thinking, you know, given Marge's personality, I said, it's got to be your egg, love. It's got to be your egg. I bet it's standing there, and as soon as my sperm see her, she says, typical, you're late. I'm just on my way out. Well, when we finally did get pregnant with Cleo, named after the car she was conceived in, a complication meant that Marge had to have a cesarean. That was something that she didn't want. Oh no, she didn't want a scar. So when the time came and the knife went in, I said to the doctor, do let her down gently. You know, folks, we've just had a new bathroom turned into a wet room, folks. I was disappointed to lose the pull chain toilet. For those who don't know what a pull chain toilet is, here's a picture of one. You see how the sinister sits above the toilet? Well, after all these decades, not once did it fall on Marge, not once. You know, during the early days, we were so poor after we got married, we were so poor, and to save our money, Marge used to wash out her sanitary towels and reuse them. Yep, she did, folks, you know. She even used them to filter coffee. And I wouldn't normally have minded, but it was instant. Here's a good money-saving tip for you folks. You know those small packets of silica gel that you get with watches and electronic goods, etc.? Well, you know, if this is the one here, I'll insert a picture in. This is the one where it says, silica gel, do not eat. Well, to save our money, folks, as our pensions only take us so far these days, so instead of Marge buying incontinence pads, I'd gather up as many of these as I could. And then I'd take them all together and give them to her. This is one before use, and as you can see, it looks quite bright and clean. And this is a picture of it after use. You know, you can tell it's done some absorbing. Oh yes. I'm going to call a interval break here, folks. So, well, mainly as I'm desperate for a wee. So you go ahead and hit the pause button if you too need to relieve the pressure on your bladder. Oh yes, oh yes. Silent but deadly, folks. It's just as well you can't smell that. Oh dear, oh dear. I think I've soiled myself, folks. I have. How embarrassing. During the break, Marge and I had a bit of an argument. Yes, as a kid, as I grew up, I was always told, never hit a woman. Oh yes, and I can honestly say I never have. So, after the argument had ended, I stood still and accepted my paralysing blow. Oh yes. Marge has always given a good blowjob. Where was I before the break? Oh yes, yes. Never trust a fart, folks. That's right, never trust a fart. See, that's a problem that comes with old age, you know. Things become looser, much looser. And I should be grateful that I'm a bloke, really. At least we have layers to trap accidents and boxers and trousers. But by the way, I would recommend tight-fitting boxers, just because they give a little bit more insurance. You know, in case one sneaks out, you've always got that bit of insurance. And if it's a tight boxer, it won't run down your leg. Oh yes, but see. As for women, you see, it's much difficult more for them. You know, oh yes, it's much difficult. I'll give you an example. In McDonald's last summer, Marge was wearing her favourite floral summer dress. And as she bent over to pick up her handbag from the seat, a dose of flatulence overcame her. And she ended up spraying the family of 4. And then there's these muscle spasms that you have to deal with as every year passes. You know, both Marge and I both suffer with them, particularly in our fingers. You know, it's in our fingers that we get most of the spasms, and they can be enjoyable spasms, you know, and but there can be sometimes when they can be a bit annoying. You know, yes, you know. Well, I'll give you another example. We were sat in a coffee shop, Marge and I, and Marge picked up her coffee, and then swoosh, swoosh. The coffee cup flew up in the air, and then landed, emptying its contents, on her lap. Yes, that's right, folks. Hot coffee landed on her lap. I mean, I laughed, but then I saw the situation was a bit serious, so I reached for tissues. But it was a good job that Marge likes to let her garden grow down there, you know, because otherwise she would end up with a nasty burn on her fanny. Aching bones is another problem as you become older. You know, it can take ages to stand up from a seated position. Oh yes, that's a problem. Oh yes. So much so, Marge has requested that she'd like one of those women aids that means she can pee standing up. You know, no longer needs to sit down to pee, you see. You can stand up like us fellas. Well, I quickly discovered that they could be come with a quite hefty price tag. So I searched the internet, and then eventually I found this, and I bought this instead from the local garden centre. Oh, be careful with this Viagra. That's another problem, you see. As you age, blood doesn't go where it should, so you have to turn to Viagra sometimes. But so if you try it, be careful. I poked myself in the eye twice. They don't tell you on the box that it sends all your body's blood to your willy. Talk about feeling faint. I rolled out of bed, and if it wasn't for the hard-on, I would have probably smashed my head on the floor. Well, after the conversation with Joe, my brother, he suggested to push one of the blue tablets up Marge's fanny as well. He said, it retightens it, he said. I do feel sorry for my brother. His wife's fanny is so droopy and a tad loose. He often jokes if he was a farmer, he wouldn't need a plough. That's the downside to it, you see. She has given Joe 10 kids, Jeff being one of them. Trust my brother to marry a woman who's allergic to latex. Of course, Marge finds it hilarious. I said, Marge, your family is no better to mine. After all, you can talk. Your family is like the Warburtons, interbred. Grandchildren, oh yes. Don't they get into trouble? Don't they get you into trouble? And it's always when you've got guests too. We were minding them last summer, and they come rushing into the garden shouting, Grandma and Grandpa, we've just found a DVD of you two wrestling. They'd only gone and found the home vids, How embarrassing that was to explain. Good job the kids like wrestling, because they did take an interest. Yeah. My 6-year-old grandson came on FaceTime yesterday, crying his eyes out. I said, why are you crying? And he just looked at me with those tearful puppy eyes and said, I want a Manchester United kit, like my friends. And my daddy said, I can't have one. And he said, you would explain to me why. Well, he did he? Did he indeed? My son-in-law's typical. He always tells the kids that Grandpa will explain that to you. If it gets in a difficult situation, Grandpa will explain that to you. I'm certainly not looking forward to puberty. I can just imagine it. Grandpa, I've squeezed my willy too hard. I think I've popped it. Oh, where was I? Oh, yes, I remember now. So I said to him, well, you can support any football team you want, just not Manchester United. And he cried back, full of tears now, streams down his face. He says, but I want to support Manchester United, he cried. Full on tears. They were streaming down his cheeks, and I said, let me explain. Because you've been circumcised, you can't support Manchester United because you've been circumcised. And he just looked at me and he said, why not? And I said, because you see, you've got to be a complete prick to support United. The grandchildren is a terrible, terrible situation. They always asked where you met, where did I meet Marge, where did Marge and I met? And it was quite a difficult thing, They asked me the other day, how I met Grandma. Christ, I thought, what do I tell them? I couldn't tell them that we met in a brothel. Oh no, I couldn't tell that, no. So I just told them that we met at Grandma's workplace, Highton Solicitors. Oh yes. And when the receptionist said that she was fully booked for the day, I said, well, I'm prepared to wait, and if you think she could squeeze me in, I'll wait. And of course she did squeeze me in that later on. Oh yes, she did squeeze me in rather well, actually. And the rest is history, you see. And the kids come back and said, is that where solicitors work? At a brothel? My daddy explained that you'll tell us what happens in a brothel. Oh dear, I said. Well, it's called soliciting. After months of complaining, folks, as you get older, your body doesn't respond well. So when you get a certain ache, you must think about seriously what could it be. And as a result, Marge sent me to the doctors. I didn't really want to go. I do hate the doctors, but as the stomach pain gradually increased as the weeks passed, and I'm not being able to have a dump for a week, Marge did make me an appointment, and she told me, you're going. After explaining the symptoms to the doc, she locked the door, donned rubber gloves, and finally told me to lay on the bed and pull my pants down. Christ, you know, all I kept thinking was, Christ, Tank, here, don't get a hard on, don't get a hard on. It could be a bit embarrassing, you know, a bit embarrassing, so think of something nice, and then after a quick squirt of the lube, you know, in she went, 2 fingers. You know, the first thing she noted was, you definitely got piles, she said. No, Doc, that's my balls. They seem to hang low these days. Well, after the examination, she asked, could you possibly do a poo for me? And I said, what, in here? No, she chuckled, you know, and handed me one of these plastic bottles, and she said, can you do it in this? I said, I don't know, the bottle seems awfully narrow, you know. I don't think I can squeeze one in there, you know. No. Oh, no, she said, I'll give you this container, and you scoop it out of the container and put it into the bottle. Oh, say, okay. I said, I don't know. It might help if you put a few fingers back in my bum. You know, it might try to break the dam. You know, she's a good doctor. She just laughed, and she said, here, drink this instead. That should take about 10 minutes to work, she said. I would suggest you wait near the toilets, and when you're finished, hand the sample in at the desk at reception. I did just that, you know. It wasn't easy to dump on this like foil tray, believe me, you know. But the difficult part was trying to get a good scoop of poo without flicking it across the room, which I did do, and I just had to put a bit of tissue over it and hope the cleaner spotted it later on. But anyway, I pushed as much of a good sample down into this test tube that she'd given me. You know, the hardest thing I found was trying not to gag. You know, the smell wasn't pleasant, you know, so I tried my best, and then, well, you can just guess where I ended up. Yes, folks, as an outpatient for a colonoscopy. You know, that's when they stick the old camera up your bum and give an examination of your internals. Oh, yes. Wasn't looking forward to that, folks. Not one bit. So the night before, you know, you go for your appointment, and then they explain what the colonoscopy is. It's a camera on a rod that goes up your bum, etc., etc. And they give you a sachet to make up the night before with water. A litre of that stuff you make up. I know, it's a lot of water to drink in 4 hours, you know, but you're told to drink it gradually over the evening, you see, and it worked well. It did work well. All I can say is that once the cork was popped, you know, it's the closest I'll ever get to know what it's pissing like a woman, you know. I was firing pure water out of my bum. Pure water out of my bum, you know. I tell you, you know, it's no wonder you women push. You know, it's no wonder you women push, you know, because you end up slightly floating in the air. You know, it's a weird feeling, but slightly enjoyable. So next time you hear your missus pushing through a piss, you know she's doing it for flight. Well, the next morning, my bowels were kind of still rumbling, as you can imagine, but after one final hovering anus piss, I jumped in the car and headed for the hospital. And once you've slipped into a gown, donned these weird boxers that have the bum ripped out, you're ready, really. You're ready to go, and you just sit in a chair and you wait for your name to be called, you know. But even though I did tell the nurse that I'm fine with gas and air, you know, she still stuck a needle in my hand just in case I wanted knocking out. Just in case, she said, if the pain becomes, you know, a bit too unbearable and you're not, the gas and air isn't taking the pain away, we like to give you this option just in case. Well, it was only at this point that I started to worry, folks, you know. These tales were floating around the waiting room, you know, this camera that goes around corners, you know, and they push it really rudderlessly with your bum, you know. So, you know, I just said to her, no, it's okay, love. It's just a thin, flexible camera shoved up my backside. I quite think I might enjoy the fingering experience. This will just prolong the experience, surely, you know. It'd be fine, love. You know, I'll be fine with the pain. I'll be fine. Well, she just said, if you change your mind during the procedure, you can always tell the doctor. Okay. And off she went then, you see. And I went back to my chair. But then after another hovering anus piss, I'm getting quite good now at that time, you know. I was getting a good 5 centimetres off the toilet seat, a good 5 centimetres off the toilet seat. So then after that, I was pushed into theatre to meet 3 doctors. One was washing the anal snake in a solution to the right. I'm sure it winked at me. I'm sure it winked at me as well as I went past, you know, nemesis to be, so to speak. Well, the main doctor, you see, doing the ramming, he just kept asking before I started, are you sure you don't want sedating? Because if you change your mind, you can't drive home. I said, no. The nurse explained all this, and in gas and air will be fine with me. I'm fine. You know, I kept thinking, you know, if I'm going to get rammed, I want to be conscious, at least to enjoy it, you know. So as soon as the probe went in, I could feel my bowels bubbling again, and I thought, I've got to hold this back, you know. The last thing they want is a rushing of the waters into the problem where they're trying to sort it out. So I just said, no, I'll hold it back. And folks, you can see on a monitor just in front of you, the same monitor that the doctor's looking at, you can see the probe moving through your bowels on it, sucking as it went, you know. And so far, the doctor looked pleased. He said to me, so far no redness, which is good sign. He said, any pain though? I said, no, I replied, no. He said, good. And he carried on pushing the probe further up my bum. And then suddenly he came to a brick wall, and he couldn't get the probe to go any further. And I just thought, Christ, you know, this is where the pain really starts, you see. And doesn't the soft lad start to push down on my chest to try and ease the probe further forward? And I said, oh no. I said to myself, oh no, don't be doing that. And then as I took another intake of gas and air, I can remember saying, no, don't do that, you mustn't push. And but it didn't end good, folks. It didn't end good. It was not for me, it was okay, it was a pleasurable experience, but for the lady at the business end where the probe was, you know, it was like watching the scene from Titanic, you know, the one where you see the rushing water rushing round the corridors. Well, the doctor who was at the business end, she did try her best to get out of the way, but all I can say is that it ended up running down her face. And I can remember the last thing I said before I passed out was, well, I did tell him not to push. Oh, I do love a holiday. That's the main thing about when you're getting older, you know, you've got more time on your hands. And Marge and I made a promise that every summer we would try to get to France, or if not France, somewhere else in Europe. So it's nice, close to home, just close enough so we can make a quick just there and a quick bath back. Well, last summer, folks, we took the car to France and did a little trip around Europe. You know, me and Marge always have a prank that on the ferry from Dover, we always do the same prank. And what we do is, folks, is that we find out where the station for the sick bags are. You know, they're normally held near some kind of desk or in some of the magazines, and so there's a big pile of them, you know. So we take ourselves over there, and we kind of how can I say this? Well, we cut the bottom off the sit bags, folks. So yeah, we cut the bottom off the sit bags using pair of scissors that we discreetly do. The more bags you can get in the scissors at the same time, it's better. It's a quicker operation. But we cut the bottom off, and then we put the sit bags back in the situation so that they've gone back to where they are. And then we go and sit ourselves near a window where we can see what's about to unfold, because the English Channel, it can be a bit rough at times, and there's always an occasion where someone's going to use a sick bag, and yes, and so when it gets rough, we do end up watching people puke up in one of those bags, and the sick ends up nicely perched on their lap. Good prank, folks, good prank. You know, I could never get Marge to go on the hover ferry. You know, it was always a proper rolling ferry. She didn't want to go on the hover ferry. She said, I said, well, why don't you go on a hover ferry? And she would say something like, I don't trust them, she said. I just don't trust hover ferries. And I said, well, why not, dear? You know. Well, she said, if it breaks down, it sinks. This time last year, Marge and I were holidaying in Dawson, no less, you know. Unbeknown to me, Marge had timed our holiday to kind of coincide with a local knob eating contest. You know, she had me convinced that it was a load of fellas getting sucked off. It wasn't, folks, it wasn't. It was kind of a knob for them is a kind of a biscuit. Yeah. I once took Marge to a nudist beach in Greece. Big mistake, though, big mistake, because when you do this, guys, we have the vision that it's going to be packed with naked ladies, but oh no, folks, when you get down there, you'll soon discover that it's just full of naked fellas. And on this occasion, Marge, being the only woman, they'd formed an orderly queue to greet her. You know, it kind of reminds me of the days at Brighton Brothel. One place that we do regular each year is the TT, the Allotment TT. You know, we're a regular visitor for that TT. And have you ever go to the Allotment during the summer months? I've often wondered why the police wear white helmets in the summer. And according to Alan of Ramsey, he said the police wear white helmets in the summer because shit always turns white in the sun. Shout out to Alan. Another problem with old age, folks, is that you kind of have difficulty sleeping now and then. You don't get regular sleep patterns because of the aches and pains and what have you, and your medication that you're on. It kind of messes around with your sleep. And, well, since January, I've been suffering pretty bad with my sleep patterns. And Marge said, I've been doing some research online, and it says if you get up at the same time each morning, you should sleep better. And she said, you have to get up even though you're tired, you still must get up at the same time every day. And I said, I'll try it, Marge, but how are we going to wake up? You know, at my phone, sometimes I can't hear it. And she said, oh, no. She said, I've ordered you an alarm clock. And it came within a couple of days, and she set it for 6 a.m. every morning, you know, and it worked, you know. The only problem was that sometimes it did tend to go off at 6 p.m, but other than that, it was fine, and the alarm clock was working, and it was a treat. You know, it was a treat. You know, it kind of knocked my sleep pattern back into rotation, so it was working. And as a treat, Marge said to me, "How about a relaxing holiday to Northern Ireland?" I said, "That sounds great, Marge. You know, when should we book it in? Next month? Should we book it next month, Marge? Go next month." And she surprised me and she said, "No, I've booked us on, and we're going this afternoon." Well, I was over the moon, folks. You know, I've always wanted to visit Northern Ireland. I really have. Well, when we arrived at our hotel in Belfast, we were told that our rooms aren't ready. So we left our bags and we took an open top city tour bus on the back seat. Oh yes. We went around the city, beautiful city. We went around everywhere, the new Titanic Quarter, etc, etc. It was beautiful, beautiful city. I can't hardly recommend it enough. Well, anyway, when we got to Stormont Castle, security was very tight. You know, as soon as we passed the guard gate, a fella boarded the bus, looking up and down the corridor, looking at all the passengers. And Marge whispered to me, she said, "What's he looking for?" And I said, "Catholics." I said, "Look busy." Well, you know, when we finally got back to a hotel, we found that the entire area had been cordoned off by police. You know, it was a bit surreal. I thought maybe they're filming a movie or something. You know, it was like walking onto a movie set. And then we saw this robot going into a hotel. I thought that's quite realistic, that, you know. And then the next minute, the robot comes back out again, dragging my suitcase with it. And then some fella shouted, "Get back, everyone, get back." Well, I was stunned, you know, I was absolutely stunned. I thought it was a movie at first, but when I saw my suitcase come out of the hotel, I thought, no, this isn't a movie. My suitcase never signed up for that. Never signed up for that, no. You see, unbeknown to me, Marge had packed my alarm clock, and for a joke, she stuck a label on my suitcase saying, if this starts ticking, run. You must know that Game of Thrones is filmed in Northern Ireland. Whilst we were in Northern Ireland, Marge booked us on the Game of Thrones location tour. She kept telling everyone that I was a big fan. Big fan, my Hank's a big fan, she said. Well, folks, I didn't really recognise a thing that the fellow was showing us, you know. I just had to keep nodding my head and taking pictures as if I knew where we were and what was filmed there, etc, etc. You see, I just didn't have the heart to tell him, really, that I only really watched the programme for the sex scenes. And, you know, it's important as you get old that you try and look for the sun. You've got to go where the sun is, because the sun does help you with aches and pains these days. And yes, it's important that you get into the sun. Well, I surprised Marge with a trip to the Maldives. She did enjoy it. Yeah. It was a good holiday. You know, the beaches were amazing, and the water absolutely crystal clear seawater. You know, so much so that you could literally pick up the fish in your hand, give it a kiss, and then put it back. Marvellous. It was a marvellous beach. You know, I kissed the fish, put it back, said hello to the little lad, kicked the ball for him, and then went back to Marge. And I said to Marge, this is wonderful, Marge, this is wonderful. But there's only one problem, Marge. You're going to have to stay out of the water as you're making the fish smell. You know, Marge is the only woman I know who has to have a spider hidden under the hood, you know, just to keep the flies at bay. You know, sometimes when money's hard, you know, as you get older, the pensions only go so far, and you haven't got, if you still want a little holiday, you know, you stick to the UK, and I can't recommend Liverpool enough. You know, if you're a big Beatles fan, you know, come to the city for the weekend and you'll enjoy yourselves, you know. I'm a big Fab Four fan, big fan. You know, after all, if it wasn't for the Beatles, you know, I wouldn't have had any sex in the city. No sex in the city in the 60s. None at all, you know. But I always find it was funny is that people called it intercourse those days, and, you know, it's a funny name for it, you know. So I did some research. On this, and apparently the name was decided by two Scots whilst they were studying a male and a female corpse in Edinburgh. That's a strange thing. So I read on, and in it, in the article, one says, you know, well, on this corpse you've got a ball bag and a shaft, and over here you've got a mountainous terrain, and if you follow the terrain you'll find a hole. And he said, we'll call it intercourse. You see, it's like golf, you see. Well, intercourse, we'll call it that, because it's just like golf. And the other doctor said, oh, why should we call it intercourse? You know, why that? You know. And the other one said to him, because you're going to want to play different courses. You know, as you get older as well, me and Marge got a bucket list now, and we have various things on the bucket list. But it's ticked off at the moment. We're kind of ticked off, and Marge has always been trying to get me to do a parachute jump, and I've always said no. You know, and particularly last year, Marge lost her two best friends to a tandem jump. You know, Sue and Jane. I couldn't believe it, you know, mainly because Jane was she was a professional skydiver before she retired, you know, and she'd often taken Sue on tangent jumps, and even Marge has been with her on a few tangent jumps. Well, you know, on that particular fateful day, you know, Jane and Sue fell to the ground dead, folks, you know. The parachute, it never opened, you know, never opened at all, which I found strange, you know. You know, it was only afterwards that we discovered that Jane was suicidal. And, you know, as the age progresses, you might find yourselves wanting a pet of some kind. And we did have a few. We had a dog. a West Highland Terrier, just like Bear, but he was before Bear, and he used to sleep on the floor in Marge's bedroom on a bed. And at the time we were in an apartment which was we were on the fourth floor of an apartment block. We're now in a bungalow, but before then we were in an apartment block. Well, he was asleep on the bed, on his bed next to Marge, and Marge had been having problems with her flatulence again. And this particular night, it was a summer hot night, so the windows were open, and she just let one go. It was a big fart, folks. It was a bit like a train hooting to go through a tunnel, and it scared the pants off the dog. Yeah, it scared the pants off the dog. He woke up mid-flight in sleep, shot out the room, and jumped out the nearest window. You know, and he killed himself. You know, yeah. Well, anyway, let's get into the good part. So, dogs, they do have good memories, and once Bear, who once stayed with us when he was younger, I felt guilty, really. I did feel guilty this time, because he was beaten up by one of our neighbour's cats. And, the other day, when I was just preparing dinner, the said cat jumped into our garden. And I shouted to Marge. I said, Marge, there's going to be a fight here, love. Don't open the kitchen door. What, she said, opening the bloody door, and with that, Bear ran out of the lounge and straight after the cat for his revenge. And we heard, it can only be described as really as an mighty scream, folks. It was a mighty scream. And then a few seconds later, Bear comes running in, covered in blood. And he's got the cat's tail between his teeth. And then Marge just looks at me and she says, what's happened here? And I said, I think that cat is now Manx. And as the years go by, you do tend to take a bit more influence on the church or religion of some kind, whatever what group you're in. You take a bit more interest in that, and you find yourself going to the services, etc. So you always get funny stories told you in the churches too. This chap, he came in and he said, Father Brown, could I have a word with you? Yes, Father Brown replied, and he told the lad to take a pew. And he said, what seems to be the matter, son? And the chap tearfuled up, and he said, my wife Pam, she's worried that we're having too much sex, and that I'm hurting our unborn daughter by poking her head with my willy. And Pam suggested that we should abstain from sex for a while, until the baby's born at least. I see, nodded Farmer Brown, and he just said, oh, please do carry on. Well, he said, I don't think God is helping matters, you see. Farmer Brown nodded and said, well, how do you mean? So the kids went on to explain that I keep seeing things when I'm out and about, I took some pictures to show you. And I saw this drain cover that said, Pam, rapid slide out. And every time I go through the park, he said, I keep seeing trees that remind me of Pam. And then I go to the supermarket, he said, and I see this trolley and this on the shelf. And then he said, before I think it could get any worse, I see this. So what I'm asking here, Father Brown, is that I need you to ask God to stop teasing me. Father Brown, he put his hand on the chap's thigh and said, and gently tapped it and said, I think God's telling you that it's all right to shag your wife. I went to the shops today, and I had to return one of Marge's birthday presents. So a bit awkward, because I never like to return anything, if I can avoid returning something, I will do, When I went to the shop, went to the customer service desk, and I said to the lady, I said, I've come to return this, I said to her, and she just looks at me and she said, can I ask, what's the matter with it? Here it is, a picture of it here, and I said, well, I bought it for the wife, but she still didn't die. Another problem with old age is that everyone seems younger than you, and whenever you're approached by a young one, it does make your heart beat just that little bit faster. It just gives you a bit of a flutter. Just gives you a little bit of a flutter. You know, I was sat in M&S, minding my own business, waiting for Marge to come out of the ladies' changing room, when a young one approached me with his hand in his pocket. You know, it looked as if he was trying to pull something out, and you know, I thought, "Quite, is this a knife? You know, what's he going to do? Is he going to hit me?" You know, and because he looked kind of nervous. You know, he did look kind of nervous, so it set my heart racing even faster. Well, when he was within striking distance, you know, I whipped out my pepper spray and gave him a good dose of it in his face. And when he was disarmed, you know, I felt somewhat relieved. You know, I felt relieved until he pulled out his mobile and said, "I only wanted a selfie with you. You see, I grew up watching you with my dad." Then there's the fear of everyone just staring at you. You know, you can see on their face that they're thinking, you know, God, I do hope that I don't look that bad when I'm that old. You know, it's, everywhere you go, people just stare. You know, well, when I was with Marge, we were in the park just before lockdown. This was just before lockdown, about 8 weeks ago. Well, it wasn't long before a crowd had gathered around us in the park, you know, and it was quite scary. It was quite scary. There was a time there where I thought, you know, we could be had here, you know. Well, Marge whispered to me, you know, "You're going to have to say something, and you're going to have to be a man and stand up to them. You're going to have to say something. You know, tell them to be on their way. It's not right. It's not right that they gather around us like this. It's not right." Well, so I did, you know, I did. I took a breath and I said, "Look, folks, haven't you seen a couple having sex before on your bike? As you know, we've had a new wet room installed. Marvellous. It is marvellous. You know, if I'm caught short and if Marge is on the toilet, you know, I'm desperate for a pee, I can just pee in the corner now. It's marvellous. Marvellous. You know, it reminds me of a kid when he used to go outside and pee in the drain. Marvellous. Absolutely marvellous. Well, it's got a new mod cons, you know. It's got all the new mod cons. It's even got a radio and a telephone connection, you know. You can listen, make and receive calls in there, you know, or listen to the radio, depending on what your preference is on that day. Well, anyway, the problem is, you see, you've got to be careful. You just don't accept any video call, you know, unless it's from Marge. You see, we only had that option installed so we could, you know, still enjoy each other if one of us was staying away, you know, get the hint, wink, wink. Yes, yes. Oh, you get it now, do you? Oh, very good. Well, on this occasion, I did accept a video call from Jeff whilst I was washing my fishing tackle. "What are you doing?" he asked. Well, I said, "You should always wash your tackle after sex." You know, technology has gone crazy in the last 20 years or so, you know. I can still remember those brick-like mobile phones, you know. Back then, mobile numbers weren't easily recognisable because not everybody had a phone, you see, so they didn't really understand the technology like they are today, you see. Every number's now 07, etc. Well, when folk used to ask me for my new mobile number, I always gave out the local sex hotline number. Oh yes, you know, they'd ring it and ask, "Is Hank there?" And the person on the other end would answer, "I'll be whoever you want me to be." I always used to get a little ring out of me in work the next day. "Oh yes, you bastard," they said. have you ever noticed that your TV seems to get louder in the evening? You know, you wake up and you go downstairs and you turn on the morning news and bloody hell, that's loud. Well, it can get you into trouble, you know, if you're not careful. Take our neighbours, for example. You know, Marge and I often go to bed early, you know, and when it's nice and quiet, you can hear their TV blasting away. You know, sometimes they're watching a natural programme, you know, a naturist programme, you know, and sometimes it's a movie. Well, on this particular occasion, you know, they were watching a movie that, by the sound of it, had seriously good sex scenes in it, you know. I was rather jealous at one point, you know, but we soon realised that it wasn't your normal movie. It was, well, it was pornography, folks. Yeah, it was pornography. You know, when we heard, want more of the best sex acts on the planet? Call now on 0900. You know, it was at this point the neighbours realised that we'd gone to bed, and they quickly lowered the volume of the TV. You know, don't your parents shock you from the grave, you know? I recently discovered that my dad was a swinger. Yep, you know, it was in his diary, you know. It didn't half shock me, you know, because he didn't have much of a willy. Here's one for you, you know. What's a pervert's favourite Beatles lyric? You know, give you a second? No? Okay. Come together right now over me. I love that one. I love that gag. It's an old gag, but I still love it. You know, here's another one for you. What's a prostitute's favourite car? An escort. You know, folks, people always ask me, you know, how come I haven't got a Scouse accent? Well, folks, it's because, you see, I came from money, you see. I came from money. My dad was a millionaire, and my mum was his private secretary. When Jeff asked me to do this video, you know, he said, I have an idea for a new video, he said, and he asked me, when was the last time you did stand-up? I said, this morning when I had a wee. I love that gag. Anyway, he told me to make sure it was at least feature length. You know, feature length. That reminded me of the first time I took Viagra. Marge was waiting in her bedroom and she shouted, "Is it at feature length yet?" "Not yet," I replied. "It's still a short film." As you know, folks, Marge is normally my inspiration and my source for most of my jokes. And, well, she was reading the newspaper on her iPad the other day and she said, they're reporting that there has been a decline in the number of personal thefts in public spaces. I know, I said, it's because of social distancing. Only yesterday, folks, I had to dose a couple of young uns with pepper spray for encroaching on my 2 meters in Home Bargains. I know. Lucky for me, though, they were known to the police. One of John's sons got married within 8 weeks of meeting his new bride. I know. He met her in a pub, and well, they hit it off straight away, you know. I didn't think she'd like him at first, but because, he can be a bit of a pervert, you see, and I bet as soon as he discovered that she was a twin, I bet he thought about it, a threesome. Mind you, having said that, apparently she's no better. She'd surprise him at work for one over the desk. Randy Minx. Well, folks, on their wedding night, they acted as if they were teenagers again. He smashed in her front door and then nailed her back door shut. Well, the following morning, he woke up to his new wife sucking his willy. Oh, yes. But he then ruined the moment by saying, when did you have your tonsils removed? You see, as it turned out, those office visits were from his new sister-in-law. I know. That morning, it wasn't only the half-eaten wedding cake that was left in tears. John went to the doctor's the other day. I had to drive him there, you see. He's got a tremendous pain in his balls, Poor fellow, he could hardly walk straight. Anyway, when we get there and he goes in to see the doctor, he strips off and he told me, within seconds, she's cupping my balls. I didn't have any pain then, I can tell you. I even had a little pop-up. Well, said the doctor. You've got twisted balls, she said. I'll have to do a manual distortion. How's that happened, John asked, getting dressed. I can't even get my hand back around there, Oh, hang on, he said. This explains why she's so expensive. My friend used to run a brothel in town, he said to me once, business is hard, but at least clientele comes and goes. Where was I? Oh, yes. Well, I told Marge about John when I eventually got home. I said, he's been seeing this prostitute regularly now for the last fortnight. £400 she charges him, £400. £400 for a prostitute? Marge gasped. I never charged that much, she said. He wants his head feeling. I said, yeah, she does that as well. Hey, wait until you hear this one. A fellow wakes up to find his wife is gagged and tied into the bed. He sees pictures of him and a young blonde all around the room. But he couldn't take his eyes off a snap of his beloved 1969 Mini Cooper-S. It was parked on the beach, surrounded by the sea, no less, I first thought he thought he was dreaming, but then he started to bang his head against the headboard. Strangely, he couldn't feel his feet. Anyway, his wife enters the room, and you're finally awake. I knew you were cheating on me the moment I smelt slap of perfume on your sports jacket, she said. So I hired a private investigator. She gestured towards the photographs. Pretty thing, isn't she? Oh, and by the way, she said, I took the Mini for a drive, and when I got back to it, the tide had come in. Sorry about that. Well, at this point, you could see the poor fellow was seething, You could see it in his eyes, bulging in their sockets. What's that, dear? I'll allow you to speak when I'm finished, she said. And with that, she whipped out the bedsheet and said, I think you're missing something here. And he was. He was missing his balls. Well, with that said, she picked up the blender from the floor. Oh, here they are, she said, freshly blended. Well, when she finally ungagged her husband, he said, with a bit of spit, he said, you stupid woman, he said, she's my daughter from my first ever girlfriend, and I've only just found out about her. And the moral of this story, folks, is if you marry a surgeon, for God's sake, tell him your sexual history. Here's one for you, why do perverts like Christmas so much? Because they love watching someone else stuff the turkey. John's got one of those allotments now. It's quite big too. The only problem is he shares it with some woman whom he's never met. He showed me around the other day, yes. I was rather impressed, I was rather impressed. I said, your unknown friend, she's certainly got green fingers. I mean, look at those vegetables she's growing, and my gosh, look at that chili plant. Those chilies on there are massive. And I walked towards them. I was hoping to pinch one, when John shouted at me, and he said, stop, he said, I've been warned that that area is dangerous. What do you mean, I said. He replied, he said, I was told by the manager to stay away from that area completely. What? Why? Well, if you go any further, he said, you'll catch it. Catch what? Herpes, he replied. I was told that area is covered by herpes. Marge and I have got a friend that whenever we visit her, we must always wash our hands, and then, and only then, do we greet her, and we say, Hi, Jean. Now that's what you call a clean joke, folks. I think it's important that we end with a joke you can tell everybody, folks. Some of my jokes, they're a bit rude. So you can't really tell them to your grandkids. And if you do, you'll scar them for life. So I wouldn't do that. But here's a joke for you that you can tell them. I say, ready? He said, why did 8 penguins board the bus? Because nobody picked them up at the supermarket. No, you have been good. You have been good. You've been a great audience, it's not like my normal crowd, You've not heckled me once. So thank you for that. Oh, you've been great, folks, and keep safe. And I'll see you next time. Ciao for now. Oh, I see you're still here. All right then. Okay. One last story before I turn off the lights. I was driving through town the other day when suddenly I had to slam on the brakes. You know, almost give myself whiplash. You see, there was a fella lying naked in the middle of the road, and it was only when I got out of the car and walked towards him that I realised it was the same pervert who'd told me his favourite Beatle lyrics. Anyway, I said, what on earth are you doing in the middle of the road? And why on earth are you naked? And he drew breath and he replied, Uncle Hank, he said, could you call me an ambulance? You see, I've got my willy stuck in the manhole. Good night, folks. Marge, have you seen Bear? I can't find him anywhere. Oh, it's all right. Don't worry. Keep listening to your music. Yes. He's on your bed, and oh dear. I'm just going for a waz, lads. You just look after me bike. Don't let the tyres down this time. No funny jokes this time. No funny jokes. I just need a waz. Be back in a sec, lads. You just hang fire. Who did that? Lads, stop throwing tennis balls at me. Whoever's doing that, stop it. I'm gonna smack your bum when I get back over there. That one just missed me head. Stop it, will you? Stop it. Stop throwing these tennis balls. You're not funny now, lads. You're not funny. You know what you're trying to do? You're trying to make me look down, aren't you? You're trying to make me look down at the ball, pick it up so you get a shot of my willy on the screen. Aye, I know what you're doing, lads. Just stop it.
Aye, it was me.
Who said that? Who else is here? Who just poked me then?
It was me who poked you in the butt, and I liked it too.
Who said that?
It was me, and I won't stop till you're dead.